In this presentation, I would like to briefly talk about anthropology. I call it Anthropology 101 since this is a class in sociocultural anthropology. Anthropology is the study of human condition in all its forms. It's a discipline that studies human diversity, that studies society and culture. Anthropology as a term has the following etymology. It came from the Greek word. First part of the word anthropology is a word for a man, but now since we live in a politically correct society, we extend it to mean all of the humanity. And ology comes from the Greek term logos, which means the study of. So the study of humanity. Anthropology is usually taught as a social science in a social science program, but sometimes it's also taught in the humanities. And in fact, sociocultural anthropology is an example of the split identity where we are both social science and humanities. Anthropology is a broad discipline developed in the 19th century as a part of what I call the birth of social sciences, along with sociology, psychology, political science. So anthropologists don't have to be located in a particular department such as ours, Department of Anthropology. They teach in different disciplines. Now, the anthropologist's scope. The scope of anthropology is everything and anything that has to do with human beings. You know, humans are involved, we study it. This is, of course, very broad and maybe even confusing to handle what anthropology is all about. So why don't we break this term anthropology into four subfields. This organization we call the quadripartite approach. Quadripartite approach includes the following subfields: cultural anthropology, linguistic anthropology, biological anthropology, and archaeology. And here I've provided you with some of the examples and some information about what is that we teach in our department. Our department's focus is on socio-cultural anthropology and archaeology. But we do have and developing courses in linguistic anthropology and biological anthropology, but this is not what we're famous for. Famous for socio-cultural anthropology and archaeology. Now, sociocultural anthropology focuses on living or recently deceased or recently living beings, human beings. It identifies rules of social behavior and cultural patterns. It demonstrates individual uniqueness and diversity and looks for universality in human behavior. It studies the ways people identify themselves in their societies, communities, and in the world. Linguistic anthropology is a subfield of anthropology that focuses on human communication. It studies the ways we structure our communication and includes components of how the brain and speech emerge together. It covers the ways how to be effective in communication and basically focuses on the relationships between language and culture, or language and society. Biological anthropology studies the human-animal evolution. It looks at the histories and how people create ideas about sociocultural difference, such as, for instance, race and racism. One of the subfields of biological anthropology that you must be familiar with from various TV shows and reality shows is forensic anthropology. Archaeology. Archaeology is a subfield of anthropology that studies humanity through the remains left behind by the people. It provides a unique view across time and space of cultures, language, and physical forms, and it explores what some call the lost civilizations and cultures of the past. Now, the four fields unified by the following. All of them have something to do with humankind. They study humanity. You cannot speak of archaeology without referring to culture or language, without referring to biology and culture. They all are interrelated when we put peoples in the picture. Anthropology has the three of the following important concepts. First one is holism, then cultural relativism, and relational analysis. Holism is the notion that sets, in fact, anthropology apart from other social sciences. Other social sciences often look for a prime mover or a single causal fact or factor, but what we do, we add various factors and look for the interrelatedness, the holism. We approach a problem or a question or a study holistically. If other disciplines tend to be reductive, we try to be inclusive and look for multiple causal factors. Now, back to cultural relativism. This is a term that is a little bit problematic, since people think that cultural relativism is actually moral relativism, meaning that one cannot pass on judgment on a society or on a practice in a society and culture that is not their own. That is not correct. Cultural relativism is not moral relativism, is not ethical relativism. And for our discipline, it's mainly important methodologically. So cultural relativism means that while the anthropologist is in the field doing a study, he or she temporarily suspends their own judgment. The aim is to obtain a degree of understanding with the foreign to us norms and tastes. We want to show that we respect other cultures and treat them as good as one's own. Obviously, this is not as easy. So once you've learned how a phenomenon makes sense on its own terms, then you can pass on a judgment, whether you like it or dislike it, but not prior to it. So you do not pass a preemptive judgment before learning about other ways of being human, other ways of life. Relational analysis is one of those important concepts because what we look at is not just at one single phenomena, but at the various interrelations. Everything is related to everything else in the analysis. Like for example, gender roles in the society are very much informed by economic system, by political relations in the society. Can be informed by an ecological environment where the society or culture is located. So looking at those relations is that what we are focusing on. Now, in this class, we are going to read the stuff that comes mainly from sociocultural anthropology, from this subfield of anthropology as a broad field. This subfield, as I said, focuses on culture and society and human diversity and uniqueness, as well as some universals, particularly in cultural practices. So what is culture then? We have plenty of different definitions of culture. So for the purposes of the class, when we talk about culture, we talk about a set of ideas, and knowledges, skills, abilities, behaviors, social institution, artifacts or material objects, and stories. So a particular group of people might have a different set of ideas, skills, abilities, behaviors, social institutions, material objects, and stories. When we talk about culture, we basically talk about models for human behavior. Now, there are several characteristics of culture that we have discovered in sociocultural anthropology. That is that culture is learned. It does not mean that you are born a full member of a human society. You're not born with the knowledge of how to behave in this or other situation, or how to use language. You're born with a capacity to learn the language, but not with already knowing how to behave in a particular situation. So you learn how to become a member of a particular group, and we call this process enculturation. So one is enculturated in a set of social norms, behaviors, and standards throughout one's life. It's a kind of a never-ending project. Now, we know that culture is shared. It means that a group of people that we're talking about understands each other. There has to be a common understanding, a shared understanding, in order for us to function as a society or as a culture. Culture is symbolic. It is very much integrated. It's adaptive, meaning that it changes over time. And it's produced, practiced, and circulated by the human beings. So when we talk about sociocultural anthropology, there is another term that we need to look at. That is the term is society. So what is a society? We think of society as an aggregate or an aggregation of individuals who have something shared, something in common, and are connected through various relations. Or one could use another term, links or connections. when we say sociocultural anthropology or anthropology, that sort of resonates with something exotic, something different. And obviously, we all love the exotic. But to do anthropology, to learn about different ways of being human, doesn't have to happen on some remote island in some remote village, because we know that no culture is isolated. Cultures and societies are always in a context and have relations with other peoples who surround them. So even though we still love the exotic, we do research in various places, in our own communities, in our own backyard, and not only in offline world, but nowadays also in online world, in the cyberspace. So therefore, anthropology is more than exotic sunsets and exotic food. Now, sociocultural anthropology, what is it, and what is it that we do? We do ethnography. Ethnography has two meanings. It's both a project and a process. As a project, it has a final product, such as a book or a film or some kind of a presentation. And as a process, it includes field work. Okay. So it's field work. It's not just simply working in the field, as one of the black and white pictures shows there, but it is spending time long-term learning the language, learning the difference, whatever that sociocultural difference might be, of the people that you are learning about, that you are studying. So doing field work is an important process. This is how we gather our data, what I call a ground zero information. And the success of fieldwork depends on forming social relationships with members of another society or community. It depends on building trust and acceptance and earning the right to acquire certain information. People usually are very generous, but the details, the minutiae, the nuances are acquired or learned about only through a long-term encounter with a particular group of people, particular group of individuals. That was my cat. So when we talk about sociocultural anthropology and doing ethnographic research, doing field work, we have to talk about the methods. How do we gather the information? How do we answer the questions that we have about human societies and cultures? So in order to answer its questions and to apply its perspective, sociocultural anthropology practices its own specialized method. Its chosen subjects, which I just defined for you, culture and society, require specific research techniques. And what are these specific research techniques? Sociocultural anthropology can employ all of the standard methods of social sciences of gathering information, but its crucial and distinctive method is participant observation. Participant observation, what does it mean? Usually it means that you have to live among the people you research about or you learn from. You spend a long period of time with them, even years, in their society, in their community. You join in their activities as much as possible. Now, this process of learning about the other ways of being human is not as easy, obviously, and throughout the process you have to make ethical decisions. So sociocultural anthropologist methodology comes also with an ethical component, which is acquiring informed consent from people, meaning that we don't just take information without asking people whether we can have it or can publish it. You always ask you ask people if you can use this information, and you always remind them that their consent is voluntary. We're not spies, we're social scientists. One of the most important ethical standards that we're trying to practice, again, it's not easy, but we're trying to, we are doing research in the way that will not harm the people who participate in the research. So in order for us to do no harm, not only we need to acquire informed consent, but also try to support confidentiality of the participants of the research. So we always ask permission before collecting, and particularly before publishing certain information. Of course, if it is possible, sometimes it's not possible to get the permission. Informed consent, people participate in research voluntary. You ask them whether you can use or publish this information. In the process, you try to do no harm to the people who participate in the research. And finally, you're expected ethically to give something in return, whether it is a service or a good. As I have mentioned, we learn about different ways of being human, not only in offline human societies and communities, but also in online human societies and communities. And there we can use various tools that help us to collect information about digital cultures and digital communities. Some of those tools you use daily as well. Must be familiar with them. So what is an application of sociocultural anthropology? Beside the obvious, that is, one acquires cultural sensitivity, respect, understanding, and ability to treat people who are different from oneself in a respectful manner. Beside this common ability to function in a multicultural environment effectively and efficiently, about 70% of all jobs in anthropology are nowadays located in private sector. Various corporations hire anthropologists to study their structures and to improve efficiency. Cultural resource management archaeology is also a commonplace, since we come to understand the importance of human history. But there is more. Obviously, anthropology is typically listed as one of the top 5 or 6 desirable skill areas for by employers. So anthropologists can do everything from personnel management to international business to holding government positions, for instance, in the State Department. And even more, anthropology provides you with tools you can use in your everyday life. Understanding how people and systems function can help you to run a business, to serve clients and patients, even to navigate existing bureaucracy. So, in short, to summarize, anthropological approach is learning about and from people through personal experience by gathering information from the ground zero level, what I call ground zero level, looking at large social issues through the prism of daily life. What is important for you to remember is that what we do is we're not preoccupied with some sort of a spectacle or sensational events. We are looking at the minutiae of daily life, and in this class you will have a chance to do it. You will have a chance to practice anthropology via an interview that you will conduct. And so at the end of this presentation, I would like to ask you a question. What did we learn today? Obviously you cannot respond to me out loud, but I want you in your mind to think about it. What are some important concepts? What is this important information that the instructor thinks I should have that I've learned from this presentation? Thank you.